Let's talk about the tools you use in your business.
Well, I last year, about a year ago, before the summer started, I actually had shut down the office briefly, and decided to lower my overhead and work out of the house to spend more time with my daughter, and I did that for the summer last year. And I was working out of I have a big old auto baron mansion in Indian Village in Detroit, so there's the space in the house. I have the third floor set up as a home office area. And it worked out well. On the third floor, your air conditioner running. There's no kids, no dogs, no noise, no nothing. So you can run out of the house, but it's not the greatest place to meet contractors, and you definitely don't want to meet tenants there. So we had our portfolio, and I figured, you know what, I'm just going to focus on doing wholesaling, doing deals. I can do that from here and make a living. But the market kept growing and changing, and money kept pouring into Detroit, and there was just this need for people to serve investors and also to serve foreign and out-of-state property management clients, and who buy these properties and like, now what? One of the big vendors that I was selling to in Europe said, you know what, if I can't get this property management problem solved, I'm out of Detroit. I'm going to get it next spring. So I talked with my coach and my daughter and the people that I consulted with and said, you know what, I think we're going to take a shot with this. So I opened back up the office. I had them for market for rent, but in Charlotte, no one rented them during the summer. So come September, I put out ads and said I needed an office manager who's property management experience. And I met Candace actually through we had some bigger sources of marketing, like with Indeed and Monster and that type of thing. But I actually met her Craigslist ad, and she's managed hundreds of properties and is a broker and was a good fit. And we talked for a while and came in and we fired up the office and we started staffing up. And I put the money in the office and the infrastructure and talked to one of my partners and said, we're going to take a shot at this, and here's what we're going to do. And he was on board with it. So we've got the fully functional battle station here, ready to rock and roll. Just 10 months now. So
Jeez, that's awesome.
And we have almost 200 properties under management.
Are they all in the city? Are they in suburbs as well? Where do you manage?
They are 97% in the city.
This is great because, as we were talking about before we started the show, I know so many people that are looking for a reputable property manager in the city. So I'm glad that we had this conversation. And I'm going to send some people your way on this because there's just nobody nobody trustworthy in the space right now. I cannot believe how many foreign investors I've talked to that have gotten just completely ripped off.
Yeah, well, that's one thing we definitely don't do, and it's just not necessary. I mean, the thing is that these clients we get, they come to us and they've been burned and they've been fed a false manifest and a book of lies. And, it's not wire $40,000 to Detroit and, collect $8,000 a year in returns. There's a little bit more to it than that. A lot of these properties we get, I like to think of in my business, I structured as, in my mind, 4 pillars. You've got acquisition and finance, which is, obvious, the buying of properties. Then you've got the stabilization, okay, which is where 90% of our business is. We've taken a property portfolio that had 20% occupancy and performance and flipped it around 180 degrees. That's through stabilization. Stabilization costs money, and it doesn't provide any return. Then you get into management. Well, once a property is in management, then you've got a viable, minimally viable product that is producing income. And that's the difference in, we do apartment buildings. That's the difference between, the 90% occupancy, 90% performance apartment building with 75 units that's selling for $18,000 to $22,000 a unit, and the one 3 doors down the street that's got 40% occupancy and 50% performance that's selling for $7,500 a unit. It's all about stabilization. It's not management. It's getting the properties to the point where they can be managed. And then the fourth pillar is sales. So I looked at the thing and I'm like, the most important thing here is stabilization and management. If you don't have that, you can forget about everything else.
And that's got to be a great kind of add-on sale for you, right? In terms of competitive advantage and talking to these foreign guys, that you do it all?
Well, everybody says they do it all. They really do. A lot of people, we do it all. We're a one-stop shop. We're a turnkey shop. And they're just not. I mean, there are some out there that are, but there's so many people who are carpetbaggers on the bandwagon of Detroit. Rah, 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 I joke with Jeremy Burgess, who you mentioned a while ago. Like, you're just a carpetbagger from Seattle. Well, he's not from Seattle. He's from the other side of the state in Washington, and he's been here for 10 years. So, I could cut him a little slack, but I'm not gonna. Um, no, he's more of a Detroiter than most Detroiters.
Yeah, he is, man. He has died in the wool Detroit, man. Fully, length and width and breadth. He'll be buried there in his backyard with his wood chopping and his garden and everything.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, that is a huge value add that we have, and it's what I've spent the last 10 months working on it with my team here, to the expense of international sales. But I figured, I'm in this for the long haul. My daughter's 8. I'm not leaving the Detroit market for at least another 10 years.
Right. Well, the property management, that's the annuity income anyway, right? And so you're building a foundation to build the annuity stream that'll help launch your transactional stream as well. I mean, it sounds like it's a perfect match.
It is. It is. And like you said, it is the foundation.
All right, let's jump to the listener submitted question. We talked about money enough, I think. Let's jump to the listener submitted question and talk about. I asked Jeremy a similar thing, and I want to ask you pretty much the same question. I know there's a lot of buzz about Detroit, but Detroit is still a dangerous place to do business. I know you'd agree with that. So, what do investors need to know before they spend dime one in the city of Detroit?
It's not what, it's who. It's who you need to know. And the answer is me or someone like me. You can't invest in. I wouldn't invest in Calcutta, India. I don't know if it's still a bad market, but I know that it was a rough area. I've heard stories about it. Right? I wouldn't invest there from here, because I don't know anything about it, and the information and knowledge I get from here could be helpful, but at the end of the day, you've got to have a field marshal, a general, some boots in the field, on the street, on the ground. You cannot do it, to continue with the military mixed metaphors and analogies here, via air power or from the rear with the gear. You've got to be on the front line, I walk out the front door of my office. I'm in Detroit. I live in Detroit. I am Detroit.